Information on Canada. The Europeans first discovered the east coast of what is now called Canada in 1497. Explorer Jean Cabot claimed that the east coast part of Canada that he found was now officially a part of England. The discovery of Canada by the Europeans was one of the most diverse and the longest colony in the whole America. During the first part of the colonized country from the 16th to the 18th century, all the colonies of the Europeans in Canada grew painfully slow. The Europeans had to go through so much pain to get all settled and colonized in Canada because it was huge. They had to make a lot of people from Europe come to Canada and settle down there so that they can expand their territory as much as possible. The main exchange that Europeans got from the Aborigines in Canada was called the fur trade. The fur trade started 250 years ago from the early 17th century to the mid-19th century. The Aborigines who lived in Canada at that time took the beaver skin to make top hats for the European colonists. The beaver hats were a huge success in Europe, and the Europeans thought that the beaver hats were very fashionable. This competitive trade opened Canada's doors to settlements. They established social networks with the Europeans and economical relationships between the Europeans and the Aboriginal people. In the 1600s, the felt hats, or the beaver hats, became extremely popular in Europe, and a lot of people wanted to have them. So, because of that, the demand for felt hats grew increasingly larger. Other than that, the Europeans also gained more success to a lot of resources like gold, silver, and fish. This helped the European settlers to be richer and also expand their territory in different parts of the land. About 300,000 Aborigines lived in the vast forested land, or the country that we now call Canada. The positive aspects would be that the European colonists loved to wear beaver hats. They were all wearing it and thought that it was very fashionable because they had never seen or wore such a thing before. It was completely new to them, and they all completely loved it. The Europeans' plan was to bury all the Aborigines' culture and religion down, force them to forget all about their own religion, culture, and rule over them with all the things that they thought were right. Since the Europeans had such high-tech government systems, they had to tie bonds and talk about a lot of laws that they came up with for Canada, with the Aborigine people. They kept on doing this and building such strong ties that there was a spark of friendship that occurred and stayed like that for some time. There were a lot of negative consequences in this settlement, especially for the Aborigines. The Europeans forced the Aborigine people to work for them. They were forced to do some things that they did not like to do. They were forced to make beaver hats for the Europeans because they really fell in love with the hats. They were facing a whole lot of poverty. The Europeans passed a lot of diseases to the Aborigines peoples, such as measles and smallpox, as well as typhus, tuberculosis, and syphilis. It spread basically everywhere in the area where the Aborigines lived. The Europeans had all the medications to fight against these diseases, but the Aborigines didn't. They all got very sick. More than 50% of the population of the Aborigines people died because of these horrible diseases. The Aborigines had to go through a lot of pain and a whole lot of sorrow to get through their dark times. There are a lot of legacies that still maintain in Canada. One of the legacies is the impacts of political, social, and economical life of the Aboriginal people. Since they followed the Europeans' rule, it is still followed today because they had been carrying that tradition for their entire lives. So the Aboriginal people adapted the English life, and that is why people in Canada know English and have white skin if you compare it with the Aboriginal people. The Europeans, as I said before, also have thrown away the Aborigines' religion, culture, their values and beliefs and replaced it with theirs. They spread their religion, Christianity, to the Aborigines so that their own values and beliefs expand to different parts of North America and also other parts of the entire globe. Since they spread Christianity in Canada, most of the Canadians are Christians.